All right, welcome back. So there's still plenty of snacks in the back. Please avail yourself of things as we go along. But our first session this afternoon is speed dating, matchmaking with Scholars Archive. Scholars Archive is our institutional repository, and institutional repositories are known for storing, preserving, and sharing traditional publication types. However, they can also provide an attractive platform to creatively showcase other forms of academic output and show value, demonstrate the impact that an institution has in a particular area of research or subject. During this segment, audience members will have the opportunity to mix and mingle with people who have worked with our Scholars Archive. Through these interactions, attendees will make new connections and find the perfect match for their scholarly output in our Scholars Archive. Lindsay Van Berkom is our Scholars Archive Administrator. Her responsibilities include building structures within the repository, creating workflows, conducting training, developing marketing strategies and initiatives, and performing outreach for our institutional repository. Ms. Van Berkom recently celebrated 10 years of service working for the University at Albany. She is the 2015 was a big year at duty. She is the 2015 recipient of the President and Chancellor's Excellence Award in Professional Service, and she has over 13 years of experience working in libraries. Lindsay holds a Bachelor's of Science in Applied Economics and Management from Cornell. Take it away, Lindsay.
Thank you, Kathy. So, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with Scholars Archive. You're familiar with what institutional repositories are, and you're probably wondering, what do they have to do with speed dating? And they don't really have much in common at all. In fact, I don't know that IRs come up on very many date nights, unless you're on date with me, and then it's probably gonna come up. Because it is a large part of my life right now. So how's this gonna work? I'm gonna talk for about 15 minutes, and then the remaining 30 minutes of the segment is going to be interactive, and hopefully there will be some opportunities for you to make some connections with our eligible candidates out there. So as I was thinking about this, I thought, what would Scholars Archive profile look like if they had an online dating profile? So I thought of some things, like we have 652 papers right now, so we're slowly growing. Our IR platform is Digital Commons. Some hobbies are collecting scholarly output, and to focus on the qualities of this fine candidate, there's the ability to demonstrate impact. It's customizable, it's reliable, it's diverse. So that's kind of, this is a snapshot of our map, and you can see where all the downloads are. And then I picked out a couple of what I'd call career highlights, so you can see some of these qualities in practice. I decided to pick random, well, they weren't really random. I picked from our top 20. These are not our top 1, 2, and 3. They're just top 20, a few of our top 20 downloaded selections. This one is from our accounting department, and it's actually an online textbook created by Dennis Kaplan. We just added it in January, and it already has over 2,500 downloads. So, and these maps in this chart that you see are some of the tools that are available for authors to measure the impact of their work or to demonstrate the impact of their work. So that's just a quick snapshot of what that looks like. With this particular item, it's reaching 223 institutions. It's mostly educational and some commercial. And then this is another book I think Elaine mentioned it. This is the 4LX book. This is in our philosophy department. Both of these can be considered OERs. And so this is just a little sample of the tools available to assess the impact of your work, or OER in this case. And then my third one is actually one of our very own university libraries, which I don't even know if Cable knows that he's in one of our top 20 downloaded items, and it's also the most downloaded item in our journal that we're hosting. JLAMs, which you'll hear more about JLAMs in a little bit, but what I wanted to use this one for is that it's been published in the journal, so you see that on the right, but you can also find it in the university library's department page. So we can have one item appear in multiple locations. So he's published in the journal, but we also want his article to appear in our department. So while all of that is, all of those things are great achievements and show the great things the Scholars Archive could do, we still thought that we could do better. So how can we enhance our profile? I thought about, we need to do a little bit of a shift in focus. So while we still, it's still a goal to garner faculty participation, we're also looking at other works to include in the repository. So focusing in on our publishing platforms, which would be conferences and events, and our journal component. Student work, so there's coursework, theses, dissertations, conferences. Our students are doing scholarly work, and why not help them promote it? And then there's this area of gray literature, which right now, I've kind of gotten it under expanded department opportunities. So there can be different types of gray literature within different departments. And I'll expand on that a little bit later, as this will be one of our candidates. So there's been success in the shift in focus. We have 5 conferences and events that are being hosted in our repository right now, this event being one of them. So if you want to check it out later, there will be video up after our video guy puts it all together for us. And we have one journal right now, JLAMs. There's another journal that's in the making. We have several structures hosting student work. And we do have some gray literature being captured by the Office of Sustainability, which is a new department that was added in the repository. And it's a non-academic department, but they do have scholarly work. So I know you're like wondering when does the fun happen, right? But I'm gonna take a little pause in sharing and give some instruction about how things are gonna go. So my lovely assistant Lauren is handing out cards. On the cards, one side of the cards is going to be the name of one of our eligible candidates. And on the back of the card is going to be space to write a question or provide feedback, or is there something interesting that took place? If you want me to follow up with you, please write your contact information on the card, because so you'll turn the cards in at each table. Now these cards are just to help you go to your first table. Each table, you'll get 6 minutes at each table. So the card helps you find which table you start at, and then you're just gonna cycle around the room. You'll have 6 minutes at each table to ask questions. Now my representatives are not the eligible candidates, so let's put that out there. They are just representatives for you to ask questions about the eligible candidates. So, I think I covered everything. After I introduce all of our eligible candidates and give you a little background on them, I'll give you a little more, I'll give reminders, because you might be like, wait, what are we doing? So, our first eligible candidate is events and conferences. Events and conferences are a fun, creative, and an outgoing candidate. And some of our examples are, the first one is CHAR, so I always mess this up, Cultural Heritage at Risk Conference, which is actually taking place tomorrow and is being run by our very own Karen Q.R.P.'s, who is head of library preservation, and she is our copyright librarian. So I'm in contact with Karen when copyright issues come up. And Ann Kearney is working with her on that event. Couple things, I'm not gonna go into super detail because I want you to ask Karen and Ann about it, but some things to highlight where Karen came to me pretty early. She came to me in March, her event is in October, and this gave plenty of time for her to do trainings, to really think about how did she want it to look, what are the elements that she wanted in her conference. Now I have some red highlight, I know it's hard to see, but that's why you want to go talk to Karen so you can see it, because I have laptops back there. And we have links to a variety of things. So we have links to parking, we have links to the registration, there's a map to campus. The next little screenshot here is the schedule and how that looks. And then the other thing Karen did was she included headshots of her speakers, there's bios of the speakers, and abstracts on the discussions. And her event is also being recorded, so video will be added after the event takes place. So people will be able to go back, people will be able to go back and watch some of the talks. The next example is our Latin American, Caribbean, and U.S. Latino Studies Symposium, which was headed up by Gabe Sanchez. He's in the back there. And he's a PhD student with the LACS department, and he's also the president of the LACS graduate student program. So Jesus knew about this event, kind of connected Gabe and I together, and then we collaborated. I talked with Gabe to see like what, how did he want it to look, what were some of the elements that we needed to add. For Gabe's event, they had panel discussions, so that's what I have highlighted here is on the schedule. You can see the different panels, and then when you go to that last screenshot is what we call the article page, and then you'll be able to see, you'll still see which panel that article was in, so that the end user isn't really getting lost when they're clicking around. The other thing to point out with this event is that it was originally being hosted on a WordPress site, which does work, but being that it's student run, there's going to be changing of hands. So who's going to run the WordPress site next? Having it in the repository offered a great solution for that. Now we don't have to worry about who's going to maintain it. It'll be in the repository. When the hands change, the libraries can be there to help make that transition a little more, happen a little more seamlessly. And this is a biannual event, correct? Right? So there's not one this year, there'll be one in 2019. And this project was kind of archival, so we added content after the event took place. So going forward, we should be able to host it right through the repository, which is what we're doing with CHAR, and is what we did with this year's OA Day event. And we have a third one to talk about. So Ilka Kressner is here. And she led the conference. It was a Latin film conference that just took place, I believe, on October 6th. And Ilka is an associate professor and director of Standish graduate program. Thing with Ilka is we didn't have as much time to plan. She came to me or maybe Jesus learned about it again. Jesus connected us maybe a month before the event. But what Ilka had, she had all of her presenter titles, she had bios, she had everything ready to go. So we met, I was like, yep, we can do this. We added everything in relatively quickly, and then she had it ready to go and was able to promote it. She was able to promote her conference a little easier because now it's online. She has links that she can send out. Here's the schedule, here's the speakers, and things like that. The thing, you can't really tell in this screenshot, but with Ilka's, the schedule is on the description page, on the introduction page, so you don't have to click in. So this is a great option for an event that's only taking place once, where, for example, Open Access Day, we do it every year. So that's not a good fit for a yearly or a repetitive conference. So eligible candidate number 2 is our journal publishing. Our example for this is JLAMS. So JLAMS is working on its 3rd issue being hosted through the repository, but it's been around since
late 90s.
Yes. This is a great example of where we were able to provide a solution for a journal that was hosted online. The editor was retiring and was keeping most of the files on his personal computer. And so now this person's retiring, who is going to take it over. Another colleague of ours who has since retired thought this would be a good opportunity for Scholars Archive. I said, sure, yeah, let's do it. And she collaborated with Caroline Jermaine and Rebecca Naus. Rebecca Naus is one of our catalog management librarians, and Caroline Jermaine is our subject librarian for sociology, information science, and informatics. And so now they are the editors of this journal. Going back to like the old school way, the editor would do a lot of the collecting of submissions via email. Now the repository provides a tool to do that within the repository. And instead of using Word docs to collect all the metadata information, we can use web forms and have it entered into the platform, right when you're collecting it, rather than having to do all this information, rather than having to add it all later. It's peer reviewed, you can assign reviewers, and there's all that functionality within the journal platform. The other thing to point out is previously there was no way to assess the readership, the usage of the journal. Now we have those tools in the repository so that we can see the usage of the journal. Our third eligible candidate is what I'm calling broadened departmental partnerships. Nice creative thing to call it. So we recently added an entire department, which is the Office of Sustainability. I've worked with Mary Ellen for quite a few years. I'm a sustainability coordinator. They're a great department to work with, and I see a lot of value in the work that they're doing, and I thought we could help raise the visibility. They have a website, but there's other stuff that they're doing, scholarly work they're putting out that's not necessarily, maybe it's not a good match for their website, but I think it's a great fit for our repository. So that red arrow is pointing to some of the scholarship that they do produce. We're working on adding more of that content. Right now there's presentations, they're getting a lot of attention. There's publications that Mary Ellen's done, there's research that her students do. And the other thing getting attention is STARS reports, which there's one in there right now, but it's getting attention. And the Office of Sustainability is working on a sustainability plan, and I thought this was good timing to provide an open access outlet, which is part of the STARS. The criteria for the STARS report is, does your university have an open access policy? We don't have an open access policy, but we can offer an open access platform. And our fourth and final eligible candidate is librarian and faculty partnerships and student coursework. So that table is back there, and Jesus has been a pioneer for me, I guess. He's been going out there and seeing lots of the connections. He's responsible for some of the connections that he helped me make the connections for some of the events we just talked about. And he connected me with Professor Reiner, who is also the director for undergraduate studies for history. Oops. There we go. So this example here is this is our first honors program that's being hosted in the repository. It's undergraduate honors theses work. We just added these early August, and they're already getting a lot of attention. We have, did I write that down? They're already getting downloads. We can look to see where referrers are coming from. There seems to be a lot of Facebook attention. So I'm thinking one of the students must have put it on their Facebook, like, hey, here's my honors thesis, and people are sharing it, and because it was being shared, people are reading it, people are downloading it. So the top two that are being downloaded are highlighted there. One of them is actually Tyler Norton, who is here and was also a previous student of Professor Irwin's, and the other one is by Haley Shepard, and that one's got 58 downloads so far. So 58 is not a huge number, but I think it's a sign of the success and the ability for our repository to raise the visibility of our student work and to make it discoverable and, to help our students out. I think that's all I'm saying about that. You can learn more about these things by going to the tables. So what kind of time do we have? Right, not bad. So everybody has a card, yes? So take about 30 seconds, if you didn't already, and write down a question that you want to ask the people that are at that table. So if anything I talked about, you still have questions about, or if you have a comment, or if something seemed interesting, that will help me. Again, if you want me to get back to you directly, just leave your contact information. We're gonna have 6 minutes at each table. We'll tell you when it's time to move to the next table. And then leave your cards at the table. And then when we're done, we'll see if any matches were made. Yeah.
To create these as you can set up workflows, to have triggers.
And actually more
So that's
Here's if I want to the Stellar's archive instead of having it.
To get the stuff, some things just uploaded to see how it would work and see if we got hit. So now that we have, I'm encouraged to really take the time. It doesn't take a long time to upload things, but you know how it goes. So really to take the time, I see the value.
And we have a list.
But this is sort of the